Hello everyone, welcome to this new Petrosys webinar. This webinar is about Petrosys integration with Excel. My name is Karolina Harvey and I am a support and training geoscientist at Petrosys in our Glasgow office. Just a few housekeeping announcements at the start. First of all, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on our website in a couple of days. Secondly, at the end of this webinar, you will receive a short feedback form. If you could please take your time, it won't take longer than 2 minutes to fill it in, we will appreciate it. And it will take about 10 to 15 minutes today in total. Okay, so let's start. We'll start from a short introduction in which I would like to tell you why this feature of being able to use Excel data directly in Petrosys is useful. Then we will move to a short demonstration and we will summarize with final thoughts. Petrosys can use data stored in Excel spreadsheet directly for display in mapping as well as in 3D viewer and also for input for gridding. So we can use this data in Excel directly in those 3 different modules in Petrosys. Why is this useful? A lot of data in the industry, for example production data, comes in spreadsheets. And geoscientists spend a lot of time then on cumbersome workflows to convert this data into a format which their technical software that they use for mapping or for modeling can read. This is completely different in Petrosys, as we can display, edit and grid data in Excel spreadsheets directly, which significantly saves your time. Using our fast and easy exporting tools, you can also make this data later available for other software, such as Petrel, Kingdom, Landmark or Esri. Okay, so that was a short introduction and let's go to a demo. So I've prepared a map. This is a map of a Gulfax region and I've got my oil and gas fields here displayed, so I've got my Gulfax field in the middle here. What I would like to show you is how to display Excel data on this map. So I'm going to go to Display, GIS, and select the source as Excel. As you can see here, Petrosys can connect and use different sources for GIS data, whether it's Kingdom, Esri, or many other applications, as well as Excel. I'm going to shut this down at the moment because I would like to show you how you can actually use a quicker way of displaying data. So I'm going to go to my project directory here and I can just click on a spreadsheet in my project directory, hold it and drag and drop it on the map here. And it displays in the correct location. So let's have a look what happened on the background here. If I double click on this layer, we'll see that Petrosys picked up the formats automatically of this file. So it knows where the latitude, longitude is stored and it recognizes the columns and the format of this file here. This happens in 9 of 10 times. So usually you will not have to define the format manually. However, it may happen that your format is not common. For example, it doesn't have typical strings that Petrosys is looking for in the column names, for example, lat long. And in this situation, you will need to help Petrosys a little bit. To do this, you can click on the Format button here. And tell Petrosys, for example, what shape type is this. So is it points, lines, polygon data, as well as we can define each column, what data it contains, for example, lat long, or decimal, integer, or any other value here. We can also use change coordinate types here and specify the Z value. And all the time we are able to preview this file so we know exactly where we are and what's in our Excel spreadsheet here. The next thing that happens automatically is that project default CRS is assigned to this file here. If your spreadsheet is in the same CRS as your project default CRS, this doesn't constitute any problem. You can drag and drop it on the map and it will post in the right location. However, if it's in a different CRS than your project default CRS, then you will need to go and define the CRS here. So you just need to select it from the wide range of CRSs available. Okay, so let's have a look now at all other tabs here. So let's go to the second tab, which is shape. Here we can control the display style of what we are displaying here on the map. So I can click on the point style here and change, for example, the style to a different symbol. And I will use a filled circle. I can change the size here and the color, but I'm just going to use defaults here. Click apply, and the changes have been applied to my point data here on the map. In the second tab here, I can use annotations, so I can choose to annotate these points using any attribute within the spreadsheet, so any column. So I'm just going to use well name, move it to the selected attributes window, so I know that this is the attribute that I want to use for display. And I'm just going to change the size and also choose the position for my annotations. So I'm just going to post it on top of my well points here. Click apply again, and you can see that the well names are now displayed on top of the points here. The next thing is the filter, which allows me to display only subset of my data. And we have simple filters and advanced filters here available, and this way we can choose to post only certain data on our map from the spreadsheet rather than everything. So for example, I can filter by well name, or I can filter by another attribute. So I'm just going to use water saturation, and I know that in this spreadsheet I've got water saturation data only for some wells here, so not for all wells. So I'm just going to filter for wells which have this attribute, so which have value for the water saturation. So I can scan here and pick it individually, or I can use more advanced filters, which I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to use greater and equal to 0, which means that any wells, any points which have any data for water saturation will be taken into account here. So now when I click apply, it filtered some of my wells here, and it left only the wells that have water saturation data within the GoFax region here, GoFax field here. And the last tab is the thematic mapping, which allows us to assign special colors, special display style, depending on an attribute. So here we can use expression, or we can assign different color depending on the different range of data. I'm just going to use a color gradient for a shape, but I can also use it for annotations. And for my water saturation attribute, but again I can choose any other attribute within the spreadsheet. And it automatically picked up the range of my data here, and to this data range this color gradient will be applied, but I can also go and choose a different color gradient here should I wish so. And click OK, and you can see that now all those points display with a different color depending on the value of water saturation. So the next thing I want to show you is I'm just going to switch the fields from the background, and I would like to show you how to display data from a spreadsheet that is a polygon data, so not point data. So I've got field outlines here, and I'm just going to drag and drop it on the map exactly the same as I did before. The data is displayed as points again, which is incorrect, so I'm just going to help Petrosys to define it. So from points I'm going to change it to polygons, select segment ID, and the segment ID I'm going to define by the third column, which is the field name. So I'm just going to use it as segment ID. Click OK, and now my fields display on this map correctly. In Petrosys we can also edit Excel data. To do this I'm going to open the editor. The editor is a very powerful tool for editing point, line, polygon data, and also grids. If you would like to know more about the editor, please let us know in support, and we will be happy to arrange a demo session for you. You can also visit our website where we have some videos recorded about this special editor. Okay, so now I'm going to use my well data from Excel. And when I click on the points here, you see that it lists all attributes within the spreadsheet and the values for this point. I can go and change this value here manually, but I'm not going to do it just now. what I would like to do is create an extra attribute, so create an extra column within this spreadsheet for my Netpay values. I have Netpay values from a different source in the form of a grid. So I'm displaying it now on the background here on my map, and I'm going to sample the values from this grid onto the point locations here into my spreadsheet. To do this, I'm going to create the attribute first. So I'm going to Layers, Definition, Attribute Definition, and here I can see all my columns. I can remove those columns or create new ones. So I'm just going to create a new one for Netpay and specify it to be decimal value. Click OK, OK, and now you can see that each point has a new attribute here, which is called Netpay, and it's at the moment blank. So I'm going to fill this data here, taking the values from the grid here on the background. I'm going to go to Operations, back interpolate, select the grid I would like to use for back interpolation, and select the attribute I would like to drop the values into. So this is my Netpay new attribute. Click OK, and 15 values were updated. So now when I close this window and move over my spreadsheet here and my points, you will see that Netpay attribute is now populated and has a value for each point. Here we can create new data. For example, we can create new spreadsheets completely. So this is what I'm going to do now. Create a new full definition spreadsheet. I will call it Proposed Wells. Click OK. So I've got my new spreadsheet here. I'm just going to switch this one off, and I can create new points here, delete existing points. Obviously there will be more options available for editing line data, such as polygon or contours. There will be bending tools and smoothing tools and many other tools. What we can do with point data is limited here. Okay, so let's move to surface modeling now. Here I would like to show you how to grid Excel data directly. So I've got a task here prepared, which takes my spreadsheet and grids porosity data. So I'm going to go to Input Data, click on the plus button, select Point Data from Excel, and this works exactly the same easy way as displaying directly on the map. So I'm taking the Excel spreadsheet from my project directory, dragging and dropping it into the box for file name, and Petrosys picks up the format, assigns CRS, and does everything on its own. All we need to do here is to specify the column we would like to grid. So we're going to grid porosity data. We can also use filters exactly the same way as for display on the map. So I've done it before already, and I've prepared my spreadsheet here. So we have Excel spreadsheet with porosity data for gridding. And I'm just going to grid this data and display the grid on the map. And the last thing I would like to show you today is how we can use the Excel data in 3D viewer. So I've got some display here prepared for you. I've got a well and 3 different frac stages for this well in an Excel spreadsheet. So the first stage, each of the stages is colored with a different color. And when I double click on this layer, it comes from Excel. The format is specified here nicely. I can choose the color and display style. I can also size my points in 3D viewer here by an attribute value. So the greater the value, the bigger the symbol. And that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to come back to my presentation and summarize it. We can use point, line, and polygon data in Excel directly in Petrosys, so there is no need to import into any other format or define the format previously. We can easily create and edit Excel data in the spatial editor. We can create new spreadsheets, add and remove columns, back interpolate values from a grid, create new objects, buffer around shapes, and many other options. So if you're interested in to see more options, please let us know in support. And today, thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to answer the questions now. Thank you.